Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Collective Clicks podcast. This is your host, Brandon Bateman, and today I'm joined by Zach Blackburn. Zach leads our SEO at Bateman Collective, and we're going to talk all about why SEO is important and what's in that black box that we all see where we don't really understand exactly what SEO agencies do and how that contributes to results. Zach, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How are you, Brandon?
Hey, I'm fantastic. I'm excited for your famous Collective Clicks podcast debut. This is the day that you get famous. So
welcome it.
Yes, that's a joke, obviously. But let's talk about who you are for those that don't know you. And I'll start by saying that, like, in my opinion, you're one of the people I most respect in the SEO field. That's your background. You've been doing for a while. That's kind of what you do for us. But is there anything you want to share with everybody else? What do you do? How'd you get here?
Yeah, most certainly. So I've been in the SEO space for about 14 years now. Oh my goodness, time flies, right? But I've worked in every part of the sector. So agency, in-house, freelance. I've worked fulfilling for local mom and pop shops to multi-billion-dollar organizations in the US and internationally around the world. So it's my experience comes with a wealth of knowledge working in this sector, helping businesses at the end of the day get some organic qualified leads. So that's the nutshell version of me.
Yeah. So I'm excited to get into SEO today. We haven't talked about SEO on the podcast in a little bit. Obviously, it's something that we do a lot of as a company. So I want to pick your brain a little bit about why this is even a channel that should be considered and how it works. I feel like for the average investor, and this is true for a lot of channels, but I feel like for SEO, it's even more true than probably anything else. It just feels like this black box that you don't really understand. And that's the really hard thing about any company hiring an SEO company is you're by nature hiring somebody to do something for you that you don't understand. So then for you to look at that company and say you are good or you are not good at what you do is really hard because you don't understand that. And then the other layer to that is often you can see that based on results. But the thing that's really tricky about SEO is results take a pretty long time. So you could hire an SEO company. They could do absolutely nothing. And it might take you a year to realize they did absolutely nothing and it didn't actually help you. And that's the hard thing about this. And I think investors get a little bit scared about this. So part of the goal of this podcast is education. Let's take some of these things that we are experts in and let's turn it into something that's a little bit easier to understand for everybody. And I think that just benefits everybody. If you're working with another agency on SEO, it'll help you understand how to hold them accountable. It'll help you understand what the strategy is, why they're doing it. It'll help you be a better client to them. So like when you're pushing them, it's on the right things, not the wrong things. So when you reach out to them, they're not just thinking, oh, this again, we got to get through whatever BS thing this client wants to say so we can get to the stuff that actually matters. Hopefully they're thinking like we're having like productive, useful, collaborative conversations about how to get better results. And all those things happen with just like even a surface level understanding of these channels. So anyways, all that to say, I guess a good first question would be number one, why is SEO worth considering for an investor? And then number two, if that's true, why are so few investors actually investing money in it?
Those are fantastic questions. So I'll try to dissect them a little bit here. So the biggest question is why SEO? Where I believe SEO works is that it's the second hand of paid. So if you're doing any paid advertisements, SEO is by logical extension a part of that. The reason why is that if someone goes to your paid ads and does not fulfill the conversion right away, they're going to Google you later. They're going to remember your name because they've already went through that process. If you did an email campaign, if you're doing mailers are a huge one for SEO is because your brand name, if they search a brand name, people look at things and may not remember it right that moment, but a couple days down the road, they're like, wait a second, who was that company? What was their name? It was Joe somebody. And then it's easy for us to start building that name. So this is something where SEO is a part of all of your marketing channels. And the great quote is you never put all your eggs in one basket. That's the philosophy here, is that you need to diversify that marketing channel. Second of all, where I believe the value comes is that through your Google business profile, You get reviews. People, that sells people. When they know for a fact that you have helped other people in your space, that they've had a good experience during that transaction, and they were willing enough to go and fulfill a review and it was positive, you just checked all the boxes that we consciously or subconsciously look at and review. This is a phenomenal space to be in when that is the case. Now, going to you said a lot of things. I just want to make sure that we hit all these. SEO is very much like growing a garden. So it does take time to foster that growth. That doesn't mean you can't see progress. And that's one of the philosophies here at Bateman Collective that I believe we really strive at is transparency. And through that transparency, we're able to show growth patterns. There are metrics that are not just the lead, that show that you are moving in the right direction. So to that point, in a year, you can have another company do nothing and you won't even know, where we're going to show you, hey, these key metrics are moving in the right direction. That puts us on track to be in that area within 3, 6, 9 months, depends on your market, obviously. But the biggest question where I believe a lot of people don't do SEO in the REI space really comes down to lack of knowledge and trust within the industry. If you have someone, your cousins, nephews, uncle, something like that, doing SEO work for you and they've never fulfilled, that leaves a very sour taste in your mouth. So realistically, the way that I view this and the way we view this here at Bateman Collective is that we're your trusted partner through all of this. So you need to make sure that if you are doing any paid ads, Facebook, social media of any capacity, SEO should be a part of that channel.
Yeah. I think all that you said is super relevant. One analogy that I think helps add a little bit of color to this is to like why SEO is, think of it like paid ads is like taking a wholesale fee and SEO is like taking on a rental property. If you look like after doing this 1 month, 2 months later, if you bought a rental property versus if you wholesaled the property, even if you bought it with maybe you burrowed into it or something like that, when do you get more money? Usually the quick money means you get more money faster. But here's the thing that's different about SEO from every marketing channel. It's, in my opinion, the only marketing channel that builds equity. And the difference, so to explain how equity works in this, like the wholesale fee, you don't have any equity in that property. You just got that money, right? The rental property, maybe you just made like a few $100 each month from it, and you had a significant amount of money that you put in it. But also, when you make that payment, some of it's going towards principal. And as the property appreciates, you're making some more money that way, and also you're getting a little bit of cash flow out of it. That's how SEO works. And it snowballs a lot over time, right? So just like PPC, you turn the light switch on, the lights are on. You turn the light switch off, the lights are off. SEO, you turn it on, and then you just wait a while, and it slowly gets brighter and brighter. But the difference also is when you turn it off, it doesn't turn right off. It slowly gets dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. So it has the value of it comes just a little bit later. But something to think about is overall, do a lot of people that search on Google click on paid ads? Absolutely. But an astounding number of people go to their organic results. Anybody listening to this probably included in that, right? Have you ever clicked on a paid ad? Likely. Have you ever gone to the organic results? Probably even more often than paid ads. So this is like the most simple comparison I could possibly do. Think in your mind, like you talk to other investors, you hear about other marketing channels on podcasts, and you see it in content and what coaches are teaching. How much money do you hear is getting spent on SEO? And how much money is in the industry is being spent on PPC? And then think to yourself, how many leads are probably coming from SEO? And how many leads are coming from PPC? And what you'll quickly realize is that people are spending big dollars on PPC, chasing a similar number of leads to what can be found from SEO. And they're spending a lot less money on that. They're just playing a little bit more of a long game. But as an industry, you have an advantage in SEO. And the reason you have an advantage is because as an industry, real estate investors tend to be more short-sighted with their marketing. It tends to be that everything's got to work out on some spreadsheet where within 3 months we got a return on investment or something like that. And if you're the guy who's willing to have that more long-term view of your marketing and build that actual equity in that, you're like the only guy in the market who's willing to hold properties. Meanwhile, everybody else is looking to wholesale. And over time, you're going to make a lot more money.
Absolutely. And something else that I like to point out is the real estate in the search results. So ads is one space, then you have organic, and then you have Google Business Profile, which that's three options that you're being found on page one. That is so impactful. The trust value, the equity that you take up, how valuable is that? Having multiple options there, it builds trust consciously and subconsciously when they see you in the ads and those other channels down the line when they start clicking on those. It's very valuable.
You're totally right. And if we look at like, how do you get that real estate? The only way to get the real estate at the top of the paid ads is you have to pay money for that. But the thing is, when you do SEO, you get those same kind of people that are searching and clicking on the paid ads, but now they're clicking organically, and it doesn't actually cost you that on a per click basis. It's a big
Exactly. And something else to think about this is that there's a variety of ways that people search. We always use generic versions of those: buy my house now, buy my house for cash. Not everyone speaks like this. Everyone has their own terminology. Everyone Googles things, especially the demographic that typically has these houses that we're looking to buy from them. They're the older generation. So we need to make sure that we're kind of looking at it from the user's perspective as well, because they may not trust ads. And that's a good way for us to get equity in there as well. They may not trust the Google Business Profile. They may not. Like, we need to be able to hit them at every part of the funnel so that we can make sure to capture those leads.
Yeah, 100%. That makes a ton of sense. So let's talk, as it relates to SEO, let's talk about metrics that matter. Because like you said, there are some things to track that help you understand whether you're on the right track or you're not. Just to give a simple example, keyword rankings is one that's very commonly tracked, right? And this is something that you have to understand when you're working with an agency. Is, let's just say you have no ranking for a keyword. And then that keyword, you get on the 100th page of Google. And then you get on the 70th page of Google. And then you get on the 50th page of Google for that keyword. How many deals are you doing on the 50th page of Google? Probably none. The traffic is probably completely minimal. But what's a necessary step on the way to getting a number one ranking, or even top three, or even first page, where you get lots of deals and lots of leads? But you're going to have to show up, and then you're probably going to have to climb your way up the rankings, right? So this is why it's really important to understand these numbers, because real estate investors have a tendency to look at things as like, how much money did I make? And that's what says if it works or not. And at the beginning of an SEO campaign, you might see progress like that. Like, we're going from nowhere at all to the 100th page to the 50th page. And it turns out that doesn't actually put any money in your pocket. But if you stick it through to the point that you actually get the results, then it's worth something. And the worst thing you could possibly do in SEO is invest all the money to get almost where you want to be and then give up at that point. Like, you literally got none of the benefit that you were looking for, but you spent a lot of the cost. That's the worst case scenario. And it's wild to me how many investors are doing that, both with like other agencies and then coming to us, and also clients of our own. Sometimes that just say, I don't have enough money in my pocket yet. And I've been doing this for however many months. And meanwhile, there's progress, but they're quitting too early, and they might be on track for a 20x return over a few years, but they quit early.
That's why I've always equated it to, it's growing a garden. You plant this stuff today, you can't expect to get full tomatoes tomorrow. Like that's just not the way it works. You got to water it. You got to make sure everything is set. You got to feed it. You got to nurture that growth. One of the biggest metrics that I look at, it's a hierarchy. So it starts from keywords, goes to impressions, turn to clicks, turn to sessions. So those are people that are engaged on your website. And then sessions turn to qualified leads. So there is a hierarchical structure to SEO, generally speaking. So when we're building the full campaign, every website is at different phases of that journey naturally that they're in. Some websites are brand new. You bought the domain yesterday and you're starting, versus someone who bought the domain 3 years ago and there've already been some equity built. That philosophy is that they stopped at that last minute, right before they started getting those leads, but then they end up coming to us. So every client's going to be a little different in their journey. That doesn't mean that we still can't see quick wins. So that's where we need to make sure that quick wins on SEO, we just need to define that. We're looking at 3 to 6 months. That's where that process starts. And it is completely dependent upon your market size, your website, how long you've had it, what's your investment in the game, what's your skin in the game, how much money are you putting towards SEO? Are you putting $200 towards SEO? That obviously isn't going to get you as much return as if you were putting $2,000 or $3,000 into it, where that's where the value comes in. And just to clarify, on the grand scheme of things, you're spending $2,000 or $3,000 on SEO. It's a lot cheaper than $20,000, $30,000 in ads. But if you're doing those, then you should collaborate those together.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that's helpful. And I don't want anybody to miss like the genius that is in this hierarchy. Basically, what Zach just laid out is that there's leading and lagging metrics to SEO. And the level of success that you will get depends on the phase that you're in. And this is true for every marketing channel, right? It's so common that we end up measuring something based on the phase that it's not actually in. And that's where we start to run the problems. And also we do have to measure it and hold it accountable to what it should be doing, right? We have to be ready to pivot strategy and stuff like that. Like, I'm not just saying you just cross your fingers for SEO and you let it run forever. Not that wouldn't work. It depends on who's managing it. I saw this study from Fidelity Investments where they looked at who in like their stock market portfolios has the best returns over the long term. They segmented all their customers by like various different things that were true about them. Did they invest a lot of money? Did they invest a little money? Are they this old? Are they that old? Like all these different things. And believe it or not, the number one segment that outperformed every other segment was those that forgot their password and hadn't logged into their account for an extended period of time, which is, it's hilarious that that's true. And I guess SEO could be that way if you have the right person managing it. Like somebody's got to be like really on top of it. But you as a business owner, like we have one client right now that's like very successful with SEO that literally just forgot they were paying for it for years. And then they're like, where are all these leads coming from?
That's the beauty of SEO, is that it's natural. Like, it's so organic, and there's so many variety of terms that people could potentially be searching for that we may not even naturally know about. That there was a study a long time ago, what was actually bringing the most amount of leads. Everyone thought it was their trophy keywords. Buy my house today, as an example. But what they ended up finding out, they called it, that they equated it to a lizard. And they said the head of the lizard is the trophy keywords, and it accounted for some of the leads. But when you actually brought it out, it went to the tail. And what they explained with the tail is that it was a bunch of terms that were variations and varieties of terms that they may not have even counted, or varieties of their primary term. So it was a lot of one-off, unique individual keywords that people were searching for. And that actually made up about 80% of their total revenue, was through those small random variety of keywords that were naturally being found through the website. It was a fascinating study.
Yeah, that I did not know that was the origin of the word long tail keywords.
That is
I
correct.
thought it was just based on the skewed distribution. Because I think what you're saying is 100% true. We did a study on our PPC recently. This is probably about a year ago, maybe a year and a half. What we did is we took all of the leads that we got for clients, and we broke out all the terms, and we broke down the terms by like how many times they were searched.
Yep.
Over in our database, and the number of leads that we got from them. And what we ended up finding is that search terms that were searched only one time, meaning this one person searches one time, there was one impression of the ad, there was one click, and then that one click turned into a lead. That was 80% of our leads. Exactly the number that you shared. And it, depending on like where you cut it off, like I'm sure those numbers could shake out a little bit differently, but it's so true, where people are looking at like, how am I maximizing like these big ones? But the reality is it's all the small ones. Like we have like literally hundreds of thousands of things that people search on PPC that are crazy. Like crazy. You could think of that many different ways to search about selling your house.
Yeah. And we have to understand that it's not just people typing, people voice chat too. hey, I need to sell my house today because my dog died. Something like that. Like those are the types of terms that we need to make sure that we're looking at, because there's voice search, there's AI, there is so much that people are doing now that we need to make sure the website is available at every part of that funnel.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. All right. I'm going to summarize kind of some of what we talked about to add a little clarity. And then I want to talk about like the black box. So we'll get into that. But so what we talked about is like the why for SEO. The why is you get leads that you don't necessarily pay for on that per lead basis. You don't pay for them on that per click basis. You gain this like real estate of the internet, and that turns into the Google My Business profile that could be showing up on the maps or on the right hand side. It turns into like organic listings that could be showing up on Google. And the whole game is it's valuable to be there, but you can't pay your way to be there. You have to earn your way to be there. So that's why you do SEO. But that, I feel like a lot of people understand that about SEO. Where it starts to get really tricky though is, well, with paid ads, I pay Google to get there. So I understand what I'm paying for. Like I'm paying in this ad platform.
Yes.
Like, with SEO, it's like you have to earn your way. But what does earn your way mean? It means you pay someone to earn your way for you, basically, is what it usually turns into if you hire an SEO agency. But then what are you really paying them to do?
Yeah. So I think this black box, the way I've always explained it to all clients, is SEO is comprised of three major components: on-site, off-site, and website. So on-site is everything that your clients can see, interact with on your website in the front end. Okay. So that's your content, your videos, your infographics, your photos, contact forms, lead forms, whatever it is. Okay. So anything that they can touch tangibly from a digital perspective. And then your offsite is your website's clout online. So it's your authority online. We'll dive into that one because that's typically the blackest of the boxes. And then the last one is your website. This one is how easy is your website to navigate, the functionality of it, the internal linking opportunities. How easy is it for Google to crawl your website? How easy is it for Google sends 3 different bots: indexing, penalties, and content. How easy is your content to follow Google's algorithm, which is an acronym? It's E: expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. That's why you just can't write "buy my house today" 1,000 times on your content, is because of that actual crawler. The black box that's encompassed in here is that people believe that it's only 2 or 3 things that actually give you that edge. Especially a lot of the generalist agencies. They come and they fix just a few minor things, maybe a technical thing, maybe your metadata, and then they think, oh, we're good to go. You should be ranking now. And that's not the case. SEO is a very collaborative, intricate web that is a partnership. Really, the way that I try to work with my clients is I try to work with them as though we're their marketing team, not an agency. So I want to build that relationship. But getting to the blackest of boxes is the backlinking. That's your domain authority online. Years and years ago, you were able to buy tons of backlinks in the past, and they did not care where it came from, what website it was, what vertical it was. That's no longer the case. Google absolutely cares about all of those factors. So where it is, if your backlink, if you're in the REI space and you have a backlink from a golfing website, that doesn't help you. You're not in the same vertical. You're not in the same industry. It does not matter at all. What they're looking for is the topical vertical level specific. So like business, homes, things of that nature. You can fit into a few buckets because of the industry that we're in, but that's essentially what we need to fit into. And then it's not just a spun algorithmic content that's out there that's literally just gibberish. It needs to be relevant and topical and valuable, and it links back to our website, and it gets to a more appropriate page on our website that's valuable, not always the home page. So if we're talking about our process, how we work in the REI space and how our process works for a buyer, and we have an article from a backlink about things to keep an eye on as far as what to be aware of dealing in the REI space, that could be a great segue as long as the content is relevant and topical. SEO is more than just this small, intricate thing. It is a very complex organism that we are trying to work in, work around, and work through. And one of the best ways that we can do this, and in my professional opinion, the best way to succeed, is building good, valuable, useful content on our website that our clients, your clients, are going to want to read and is relevant and valuable to them. So hopefully that explains enough about the black box.
It certainly does explain a lot about it, although there's so much we could go so deep into that. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I want to know more about that, let us know. Say that you want some more episodes about that, considering maybe one day we could do like an SEO masterclass, similar to what we've done with PPC or Facebook ads, where we dive into each of those things that make that up, because there's so much there. But for today, we're a little bit more limited on time. I just have one last question for you, Zach.
Yes.
Zooming out a little bit, right? So we talked about what do investors need to understand about SEO, but I'm curious from your perspective. I want an SEO hot take here. I want to know, what do you believe that you feel that 95% of SEO professionals even don't believe that makes a big difference for SEO results?
Honestly, I think that they think creating a plethora of blogs is the way to go. That is so archaic. That does not matter. When you look into the data, most of the website, when you have a 1,000-page website, that their strategy was just pump out as many blogs as we can, will get you the value. There's a difference between REI and a news organization, right? Those ones will pump out 1,000 blogs a day, and that's fine. That's their job. But in the REI space, in our industry, we do not need to create 1,000 blogs to be successful. We need to create the right blogs with the right messaging, talking about our clients and how we help them. And that is what's going to lead us to success.
All right. Fair point. I appreciate all the time that you spent with me today, Zach. For anybody listening to this, if you're interested in learning more about our SEO product or anything like that, you can always reach out to us. We'll have some look at what you're doing. We love to do audits too. Like Zach said, there's all these different phases of SEO. And part of this whole partnership is we have to figure out what phase are you in when we start the campaigns. The other really cool thing about SEO is 99% of what you're doing is just out there on the internet because you're putting it out there for Google to see. So it's relatively easy for us if you're working with a different SEO company. We don't need access to a bunch of stuff for us to be able to go in and audit what they're doing. And that's something that's really cool. Whereas sometimes at PPC, you have that hurdle. Now I have to give you access and I have to tell them why I'm giving you access and all this stuff. If you just tell us your website domain, we can go through that and we can build a report for you showing some of the stuff that we see. You mentioned the on-site, off-site, and website SEO.
Yes.
One of the favorite things that one of our account managers says, his name's Josh, when clients ask him like which one's most important, he says it's the one that you're worst at right now is the one that's most important for you right now.
Yeah.
That's why all of our SEO strategies are built around like quarterly deliverables, and we change it every quarter based on where you're weakest and what we feel is most needed to make the difference. But that said, like we can tell you, oh, this is important and that's important, et cetera. But if we can just look at your website, we can identify which of those is the weakest. It's this three-legged stool. If you got one leg that's like really short, the stool's not going to stand up very well. And we can identify like where that focus needs to be. So instead of just making something that you're already doing a good job at even better, we can build it up where it needs to be built.
Most certainly. That's a great points there.
Yeah. So anyways, all that to say, if you want to talk to us about that, like I would love for this podcast, maybe one day with AI, we'll make it a listening experience. So you can listen to this podcast and it'll tell you what's most important for SEO based on your website domain and what our AI has found in there. That'd be really cool. We can't do that. So you got to talk to us if you want that. AI is not quite there yet. So anyways, thank you everybody for joining us and I will see you next week.